on an Italian menu for a restaurant that we're opening in this great city in Ontario. We've put a lot of research into making authentic Italian cuisine, and it's really inspired me to make a lasagna that's vegetarian friendly, but still good enough to satisfy any carnivore. I'm gonna be using rapini as my obedient ingredient to help make it really substantial but offset some of the flavors. Butternut squash is gonna be providing the sweetness, but also balancing out the flavors and what some people will say is the bitterness of the rapini. One of my all-time favorite things is making homemade pasta. Once I do it, you never go back. Let's go. Now, there's a couple different ways you can make pasta using different ingredients. I'm gonna be using all-purpose wheat flour for my recipe. I wanna start with about 4 cups of all-purpose flour, a few good pinches of salt, because we want to make sure we flavor the pasta. I'm making a well in the center of my flour here. It's 100 grams of all-purpose flour to 1 large egg. So we're looking for 6 of these eggs. Want to crack them into the center. That way, if shells fall, I can pick them out. And also, I want to control how I incorporate the eggs. You'll see what I mean. Oh, look at that one. Caught it in the nick of time. All right, our well is well supported. Get it? Well. Okay. We want about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm gonna use a fancy thing called the finger whisk, and it goes like this. Then, with my finger, I'm gonna start breaking up my flour. This is the part my kids really love. They get in there, they get to make a mess. But I guess, you know, that's part of the fun, and they really seem to enjoy this, so I seem to enjoy it too. So you see my dough starts to come together from the moisture of the eggs. It always starts out being really crumbly like this. So what I like to do is add just a little bit of water at a time. Check this one out. Remember those eggs? The measuring cup. So it's about a tablespoon. Just want to bring it together. Just seems like it might be just enough moisture. This is going to make a really firm dough. All right. One of the most essential steps in making pasta is making sure you knead the dough really well so that you can make a really nice, thin pasta. Now, when I'm kneading, like any dough, I pull it towards myself, and I push with the palm of my hands, turn it, and do the same until my pasta dough starts to get nice and smooth. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And I want to wrap it with plastic wrap. I want to make sure my dough rests so that it settles a little bit and has time to come together. While my dough is resting, I can start working on my butternut squash and getting it ready to go into the oven. How do you get into this thing, though? Let me show you. Like that. Then with a spoon, just take out the seeds from the inside. Now I can use spaghetti squash, acorn squash, even pumpkin. Any of those hardy root vegetables will do essentially the same thing, but the butternut squash has that unique sweetness that is gonna offset the bitterness of the rapini. Cut those out. That hits my compost. Make food for another day. So let's break this down to manageable pieces so that they cook all at the same time. Add a little bit of olive oil. But my oil does double duty here because I want it to coat it all nicely. But it's also gonna help my pepper and my salt stick to my squash. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees. I'm gonna let this roast in the oven for about 20 to 35 minutes, and then I can start banging out my rapini. My cooking philosophy is all about honoring the classics while giving them a little bit of a nudge. I'm gonna take that old school tomato sauce and bechamel and give it a little bit of a kick. My rapini needs to be rinsed off really well. The butternut squash is roasting away in the oven, and the aroma is filling the kitchen, and it smells amazing. You check my pasta out over there. It's resting, and all of the ingredients are coming together and settling to make a nice, supple dough. I want to first start by blanching my rapini. There's these little bits on the end here. I want to trim those away. Line up all my duckies. The stalk and the leaves and the buds cook at different rates. So I have some water that I'm going to bring up to the boil here. And because I want the stalks to cook first, I'm going to show you a little trick. You want a pot that has a wide open base, but has a deep enough well to hold the length of the stalk. The stalks will take about a minute or so. That gives me some time to start banging on bechamel. Such a classic element of a lasagna. And it starts with some butter. So let's turn it up to a medium heat. I don't want it medium high or high because then the butter will burn, and I don't want burnt butter. Now we want to add equal parts all-purpose flour. So if I've added about a 1/4 cup of butter, I want to add about a 1/4 cup of flour. We want to make sure we incorporate it evenly so we can form a paste. This paste is called a roux, and this roux is going to form the base of this bechamel. Now, I've got the stalks all done. I just pushed my leaves in. I'm looking for the color to change from a deep green like this to a very vibrant, bright green, okay? That looks pretty good. Oh, okay. I want to transfer this rapini onto a tray. I want to make sure that I can handle it. So it's got to cool down. That's very important. So, slowly, I add the milk. I want to make sure I incorporate it so it's completely smooth. Oh, no! Now we're just going to let that cook. So watch this. The mortar and pestle is not only used for spices or black pepper. I'm going to puree these jalapeno in my mortar and pestle. I want to first start extracting most of the seeds. The seeds are where the heat is. So what I'm going to do is take out the seeds of 2 of them and leave the seeds of 1 of them. That looks about good, yeah? Just going to chop it up so it's easy to work inside the mortar and pestle. So in we go to the pestle and mortar. Oh, that looks good. And at the end, you get a little bit of that kick from the jalapeno. My bechamel is ready to go. So we're gonna take this squash and transfer it. We wanna make sure we get all the flavor out too, right? Oh, that looks so good. It's not completely done. I wanna add even more flavor to this mix, right? 1 white onion. Top a little cloves of garlico. Smash it up good. Just gonna give my garlic a quick chop. This remaining piece of butter here is gonna get some work. Whoa! We're gonna caramelize some of the natural sugars and get the browning out of those onions. Wanna bring up that temp so we can saute on a high heat now. Now, this is called a potato masher, but today it's a butternut squasher. So just lightly start breaking that up. I want to use a good whack of sage. I want to infuse a lot of flavor into my onions and to this butternut squash. Just give it a rough chop. Check it out. See the color there? That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna whack my sage in there towards the end. I don't want to overcook the sage, it's very delicate. I just want to warm it through. That's perfect. Look at that. Nice color. The rest is translucent, and the aroma is just bananas.